Time flies when you're having fun. Here we are again with Marshfield Old School Times. It's April the 25th. It's the final day of the Missouri Cherry Blossom Festival here in Marshfield, and what a 3-day event this has been. I'm telling you, I just came from the gym, and it was packed down there with vendor palooza. I think everybody was wanting Clint Howard's autograph.
Wow.
We've got a great.
I want Clint Howard's autograph.
But we got a great guest with us today, James Matthew Owen.
Hey, Lyndall, how are you,
All
Representative?
right, sir. Yeah, you known you a long time, known your family, your dad, your granddad, great Elkland family, the Owen family. And it's great to have James in today to talk about his new book that he's written, The Wicked Among Us, and we're going to hear all about that. Before that, though, I do want to kind of catch up with James and what he's been doing the last 30 years.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So we're going to get started right off the bat. Bring us up to date.
Where to start?
Yeah.
Yes, I am a 96 high school graduate of Marshfield. I went to Drury, went to college there, took a year off and worked in politics. So you and I, even though we're on different sides of that political spectrum, I worked in politics for a little bit.
That's right. Yeah.
Then I went to law school at a school west of Mizzou. Some call it KU Law. That makes me a big hit in Columbia now that I went to
Judge
KU.
Sims would like you though.
Yeah, there's a few good ones that went to KU.
Yeah.
And then I worked in Topeka for a little bit. I came back to Springfield, where I clerked for the Court of Appeals. Jim Pruitt was a judge who was retiring. He was a Joe Teasdale appointee.
Oh, yeah.
That's how long he had been on the bench.
That's back there a while.
It had been a while. And then I ended up going to work for Roland Comstock, who actually ended up being the subject of this book I've written.
Yes.
About a lawyer that I worked for that was murdered. That was him.
Wow.
And then after that...
What time frame would that have been when you worked for him?
Mid-2000s, 06, 07.
Okay.
That's when he was murdered in 07.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then I went to work with Craig Hosmer. Mm-hmm. Has he been on here?
He sure has. And, of course, Craig's my good friend, schoolmate, classmate, 1977. And he and Andy were on and had a great time. And, of course, I respect Craig Hosmer about as much as I do anyone that I can think of. Again, maybe don't always agree politically, but it doesn't really matter when you have a good friendship like that.
Fabulous guy.
Yeah.
And I worked for his firm for 7 years doing probate and estate planning work, including working off the square here at their Marshfield office.
In the Stone Castle, as Hoover Case calls it.
I was never there.
Oh no, you were in there.
I was at the one behind Ruth's Flowers.
The old Haim Sims office. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
So that's where I was. But then I got whisked away. Governor Nixon appointed me to serve as an associate circuit judge here in Webster County to finalize the term of Judge Don Cheever.
Right.
And I was able to do that. I had to run right away.
Yeah.
As Herbert Hoover would say, democracy is sometimes a bad employer. So I did not win that election. But then I ended up going to work in Jefferson City to work for the Governor Nixon administration, including serving as the public counsel for the state of Missouri, which was the ratepayer advocate before the Public Service Commission.
Yeah.
Public Service Commission, just as a little aside, regulates privately owned utilities like Ameren, Evergy, which people still call KCP&L, Liberty down in Joplin, Spire. They do not regulate co-ops. They do not regulate city utilities. So Show Me Power does not go before the Public Service Commission as an example.
That's all stuff I learned when I got elected.
Yeah.
You know, how that whole system and the whole grid system works. And it's really interesting and it's very complex. And so we may touch upon, if it's okay with you, right now there's a hot topic around here with data centers. And I think people should understand what data centers really are and what they do and how not only harmful they could be, but how helpful they are. So again, it's going to be a very casual, non-partisan topic today for us, but it's important that people understand and know what's going on with that industry.
Yeah, and one thing, I did not know anything about energy policy before I took that job. Yeah, but I learned it really fast. Yeah, and then again, democracy stepped in, and I was no longer public counsel. But then about that time, I ended up becoming the executive director of an organization called Renew Missouri. Right. Statewide group that works on clean energy policy, and so also involved with the Public Service Commission involved with lobbying at the Missouri legislature, so I know all of the people that are involved with that that are from this area. I still practice law a little bit on the side. I was a part-time judge in the city of Columbia. I'm married. Have 2 kids, 2 lovely kids.
How old are they now?
8 and 3.
8 and 3. Wow.
Yeah. And and then I wrote this book.
Yeah.
So I think that's the last 30 years in a nutshell.
That's a pretty good synopsis there. Before we go further, I want to talk just a minute, though, about those early days in Elkland, Missouri. And talk about your folks. You have a sister.
Yes.
And then your grandfather and grandmother. I know your grandmother was just a wonderful lady and was kind of a stalwart in that community. Mm-hmm. Your grandpa, you may not have known as well. I don't remember when he passed, but 84. I knew him. Yeah. And he again was a very dominant figure in Elkland and was the sheriff of Webster County for a time.
From the mid-50s to the early 60s.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that family history.
Before Sheriff Fraker, of course.
Yeah, that's right. They were good friends, though.
Yes. And after Isom Cunningham, because in fact, and I learned this, I kind of did a history of him. He won a special election because Sheriff Cunningham had been killed in a car accident.
Yes.
And so Floyd, Tiny Owen, he won that special election.
Yeah.
My grandparents... Tiny and Mabel, they lived on a farm just outside of Elkland, the bustling metropolis of Elkland. Blink and you'll miss it. But then my parents, my mom and dad... They have a
Dollar General now, though.
They sure do. A dollar market, in fact.
Yeah, you got the produce and everything.
Listen, that has saved my skin a number of times when I've been staying there.
Hey, that's right.
But my parents, Doug and Marcia Owen, they ran a dairy farm just south of my grandparents' place. They started that about, 48, 49 years ago in 1977.
Did that join the farm your grandma and grandpa lived on, or was it close there?
It's very close.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, about a minute away.
Right.
It was a different acreage, though. They milked. I milked.
Yeah.
It was not a job. It was a sentence.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was a great way to grow up.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as being outside, learning my work ethic, I don't think I would have done it any differently. But when the time came and I thought about after I was nearly done with college, and I said to my dad, you think I should take this over? And I think he sensed I was a little more of an egghead bookworm type, and he said, "There's really no money left in this." Yeah. There really was no money in dairy farming. Yeah. And so he ran that. He was on the school board for a period of time. He was on the Webster County Webster Electric Board for a time. So they were involved with the community. We all went to church together at Marshfield United.
And that's how I really got to know you as a youth in our church. And I will tell you this about James, and we kind of called him Matt back then, but funniest guy. They'd have skits, they'd have special little youth presentations or whatever, and James was the class clown. You made people laugh.
I did. I always think a little bit about, like, when I was in high school, the first thing I did that was really, like, kind of exposing myself to that sort of thing is Carol Maples, the old theater teacher, had a, kind of a talent show at the end of the year. This is my freshman year. And I just decided, not encouraged, not prompted by anyone, I was going to teach myself a Bill Cosby routine.
Yeah.
I know. He's bad. He's bad now. He's bad now.
He was great back then.
He was great back then. Yeah, who knew?
Yeah, you knew. Yeah.
I taught myself that, and I got up and I did it. And I killed.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, I killed. And then it just was like, I wanted to be on stage.
Yeah.
And that I part of, the reason I got to go to Drew is because I was on a partial theater scholarship. Yeah. And so
Didn't you do magic, too? Or did you? No,
never magic.
Okay, maybe I just remember you, using your arms and hands and doing stuff.
That's just because I can't control myself. No, I was generally in the school plays. I was generally the comic relief. And that was really fun for me. Yeah. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. I was thinking I could. I mean, I'm a big movie guy, too. I'm big into movies. Oh, that's the thing I didn't mention. Within all of this, I was on KY3 for a couple of years as an on-air film critic.
Yep.
I have been, for a number of years, the film critic for the Columbia Daily Tribune. I've taken a break from that to kind of focus on the book, but I review movies.
Yeah. Is that fun? You like that?
Oh, yeah.
I bet it is.
I love
fun.
it.
Yeah.
I love talking about movies. I can't get enough of that art form, and I was actually just thinking about this because I'm going to be going to the Webster County Library to sign my book.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how I used to like check out old movies from the library. They used to have like old videos. And I would check out like Hitchcock films, Universal monster films, the Marx Brothers, some of this artsier stuff like French New Wave, like Godard and Truffaut. And that's where I like really learned like classic film was because we had such a great library here in this community.
Sure.
And that just turned me into a total nerd.
Yeah. Well, that's really neat. I remember when you were doing that, not being on KY3 and so forth. So in high school, you were in the theater.
Yep.
And did you play some sports too?
Oh, no.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
You
worked all the time.
I'm club-footed. Yeah, and it was always in practice was always during milking.
Right.
So that's where I was.
So you went on to Drury, then you went on to KU, got your law degree. Anything from those early years that you would want to highlight or touch upon, or anything that was maybe instrumental in you becoming the person you are today, or even be able to the interest in history or law, anything special that comes to mind in those early years?
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean,
mentors, maybe.
Oh, sure. I mean, when I think about, you mentioned history.
Yeah,
I'm a big history buff. I mean, in this very building, I remember like still one of the most formative teaching relationships I ever had was with Steve Page.
Yep.
May he rest in peace now.
Absolutely.
But I remember like
Great
someone
person.
who was so enthusiastic and so like energized about. He was animated.
I even had Steve Page.
Yeah.
He was really young, right out of college, but I sure did.
But
and Jim as well.
And those guys were great.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, I was not much of a science guy. I mean, like Jim, probably I would have been much more enamored with Jim if I was smart enough to be science based.
Yeah, right.
But Steve, like that captured my imagination quite a bit. And my English teachers, like I think about Greg Zeller, I think about the Rossetters, I think about Susie Moody, Pat Childers.
Yep.
I mean, like, I think certainly the public school education I had here and the teachers I had here, I mean, how can you not, separate that education at a young age from like what you end up becoming?
Absolutely.
I could not have been anything. I could not have gone to college. I could not have even entertained law school had I not had people like laying that foundation for it.
Right. Don't you think, because I've thought a lot about this and talked to others about this even in the show, don't you think the outside influences we have today are such a distraction? I mean, when you talk about those same, I had many of those same people for teachers. They were all very young then, but by the time you came along, they were probably toward the end of their career. But we didn't have all of the distractions we have, even from Washington or from the state legislature or outside groups or people out here pulling and tugging. It was like you really didn't know what politics a teacher was particularly. They taught the curriculum, and it wasn't like all this stuff going on. The internet wasn't around. We didn't have cell phones. It was just a different world.
Well, I think certainly everything has become kind of immersed in this idea of conflict, of ideology, of tribalism.
Yes.
And I can make complaints from one side and other people can make complaints from another side. I mean, ultimately, I do think there's a little bit of, we're overwhelmed. I think we are overwhelmed by the amount of information. Yep. I think we're overwhelmed by the amount of events. And I think it's because it's more apparent to us. Like, when I was in school, I could not access what was going on across the world. I might have 30 minutes of news at night because I was another one of these weird kids. You always hear about these weird kids who watch the nightly news or read the newspaper.
That's
I was one of those kids. Mm-hmm. And that's all you had, right? Yeah. You had the newspaper and you had TV. Now, you can argue, and I think some would argue, well, that was limiting in itself as well. And, you would not know what else there was out there unless these particular people said so.
That's right.
That's what that would be the counter argument to that, right? Mm-hmm. But then I don't think our brains are really they're not really designed to process this fire hose of information that we get now.
I don't think so either. And that's why we see anxiety and all these things out there in young people, especially that I mean, we didn't see to the point that we do today.
I'm anxious.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, my boys, they learned to tear an engine down and put it back together by watching YouTube.
Yeah.
They didn't have I couldn't stand over them and tell them how to do it. I change my oil. That's about it. Now I can build something, and I can teach them that. But they do it all with YouTube, and to build computers from scratch and to troubleshoot. Landon's a data analyst for Show Me Power. I mean, they learn all that on their own. They didn't necessarily learn all of that in school. They certainly enhanced what they learned, but it was YouTube and the internet and so forth. So
and I certainly think that what you learn in school like helps you process all of that.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Like with your kids, or like even like with some of my relatives, my younger relatives who are able to teach themselves certain things.
Right.
I think that you do. I mean, one, you have your parents who are obviously having to. I read to my kids. My mom read to me. My dad wasn't much of a reader, but my mom always read to me.
Yeah.
And so I think you kind of lay all that out. And that's all got to be like...
Basic foundation.
Basic foundation.
Right.
So then that affects like what else you're learning and how you're able to process that or thinking critically. Because I do think that's another problem. And that's either younger people or older people. They see stuff online. Older people are really bad about this. They just believe it.
Yeah.
Because, they used to believe Walter Cronkite and everything he used to say. And now it's like, anybody sitting behind a desk is credible.
Right.
But they're not.
Or they're not credible.
Or they're not.
Or they're totally not. I mean, you may have someone that kind of is, and it's like, oh, no, because they believe a certain way or whatever.
Yeah.
They don't like blueberry pie. Well, he doesn't like blueberry pie, so I don't like him.
We have conspiracy theorists and anti-Semites who wear a suit.
Yeah.
And that makes them credible because they're on a screen.
Right.
And you can figure out who I'm talking about, but
Yeah.
but it is, you worry a little bit about, or I worry a little bit about, as someone who is working in a dying art form of the published book. Yeah. By the way, buy this before it's too late to. But no, but like as someone who is invested in the printed word, big movie theater guy, and those are types of art forms. Those are types of venues that are not as popular as they were. Mm-hmm. I mean, certainly I just think that there needs to be a new approach to them because everything can be better, right? I mean, I think.
Well, I think there's really nothing as entertaining as a good movie at a movie theater. It is, even for an old guy like me, it's still. I guess the last movie I saw was the new Elvis.
Elvis Presley in concert. Epic.
And it was well done.
Oh my gosh!
Now it's not a story. It's with a beginning and an end, particularly. Well, I guess it was, but I mean, it was entertaining, and it was I'm a documentary guy anyway, so it was very behind the scenes, and it was well done.
I love that movie.
But I'd watch it again now. Of course, I'd watch the first Elvis again.
Oh yeah.
Not because I was an Elvis lover, but just because it's history. It's how the world was in those days. The TV show Mad Men. Kind of a terrible, nasty show in a way. But my gosh, the pop culture that it represents, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I mean, that was when that family goes to the park and he's drinking a beer, driving, and the kids are in the back seat with no seat belts, and she's sitting over there smoking, and the windows are down.
Littering.
And then they pull into the park and he throws his beer can in. Is that not how it was in the 60s?
That's how it was in the 80s.
But I mean, it's just that kind of stuff intrigues me.
Yeah.
Let's move on a little bit. Before we get into your book, I want to touch on the one subject we mentioned.
Yeah.
And then we'll leave a lot of time for the book. But I did want to talk about this data center thing because you are heavily involved in the solar industry. The solar industry, obviously, is something it's the future. It and the wind industry are out there, and they are continuing to grow, and there's obviously been mandates to grow. But what do data centers are a very hot topic right now here in Webster County, just in the last week, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I think people should. We're not gonna pull off this thing and get anywhere too far.
No.
But I think people should understand from someone that's in the electricity industry.
Yeah.
And that there's a lot of things about a data center that are negative, but there's also realizing as long as we have these and as long as we have the internet, that data has to be stored somewhere. And we have data centers in this town, in this county right now, whether you realize it or not. The new little centers that they built over here for Brightspeed behind Casey's, that's a little data center.
Yeah.
And so before we just totally, kill ourselves, I think we should understand a little bit about that there can be huge ones and there can be little small ones. There's some that are not dependent on the water like they used to be because they circulate water. Tell us what you know.
Okay, so this is a very complicated topic. It's something that I think one of the reasons why people are so concerned about it and apprehensive about it is because it is new.
Right.
We have not seen it. We do not know necessarily what the impacts of data centers are going to be. Yes, there is a lot of information online. Some of that is actual information. Some of that is misinformation. Some of that is disinformation. And there is a difference between those two things. But I think, what ultimately you talk about the cell phone. It's not just your cell phone. It's your credit card.
Yeah.
It's almost every aspect of our daily life is dictated in some form or fashion by technology. And we are not going to be able to undo that. Right. So now we have these data centers. And I mean, yes, of course, artificial intelligence, AI, is powering, pardon the pun, powering a lot of this demand for data centers because you're essentially talking about these data centers being like a manufactured brain. I mean, we're basically spending a huge amount of money and a huge amount of resources to replicate a brain. You may say to yourself, well, I don't want to have AI. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Well, I hate to break it to you if you're an anti-data center person, but I've looked at your Facebook pages and you've got AI photos on them.
That's right.
So I would say the first thing my advice would be, if I was going to give anyone some consulting advice, if you're going to be against data centers, take off your AI pictures because that kind of makes you look like maybe you're
utilizing AI.
You don't realize that you're using it as you speak. And so the question,
but along with that, if you ask a question, if you go to Google or Safari and you ask a question, that answer is coming from information that's been collected. Now, we think of the cloud, but the clouds, it's not really up in the sky. It's in a data center.
It's in a data center.
And it's pulling that information to answer that question. I might ask a question, who in Marshfield, Missouri might have made this roast sign behind me, right?
Yep.
And it's going to give me an answer. Well, it could be sign effects. It could be sound and vision. It may give me an answer that of sign people in Marshfield, Missouri.
Yeah.
Well, that information had to come from somewhere, and it's coming from data that's been stored and collected in some data center somewhere, not out of the cloud in the sky.
We're scraping all the information, which we basically have like every scrap of information that's ever existed online.
Right.
So this is now able to find it,
right,
comprehend it, and spit it out, and even like maybe think somewhat independently in some cases. Now, the whole concept of AI, you might say, well, that is a completely different argument to make. It exists. It's a technology. We are essentially in an arms race with China and Russia to see who's going to get to this first. I think at the global level, we probably need to regulate it like we would nuclear warfare.
Yeah.
Because I do think that one of the problems that we have is not only do we not understand this technology, we're also not regulating it either. Now, there are at the state level and the federal level, there are regulations to try to make sure that other electric customers are not paying it. There is a piece of legislation filed by Mike Koslow and Colin Wellenkamp, two Republican lawmakers from the St. Louis area, to help regulate data centers and how they're built and how they use water and how they use electricity. It's gone nowhere. As you know, a lot of legislation doesn't, but it is actually...
It takes a while.
It takes a while.
It may move forward next year and forward again. And that's not always partisan. That's because they haven't... things change. The markets change, or what we know about data centers changes. And so they have to modify the bills.
Right. I mean, and I think it's a good first step, and I certainly think those guys have put a lot of thought into it because they're part of a thing called the Future Caucus that the Missouri legislature has now, which is really interesting. Now I talk about the Public Service Commission. I just mentioned that they have put a lot of safeguards in place to prevent people from having to pay for data centers for the electricity.
Right.
Because, I mean, I'm talking about electricity here. I'm talking about these things are using, in some cases... I mean, you talk about the one that Show Me owns. It's not going to be using a lot of power.
No, right.
But like the Google data center in North Kansas City, or the Meta, or Facebook as we call it, that data center in Kansas City are using hundreds of megawatts of power. And to put that into context, the city of Springfield every year uses about 350 megawatts of power. And that's what this data center also uses.
Yeah.
All right. So it's a lot of power.
Right. And I think it's safe to say, if Webster County ever got one, and you can understand why someone might look at Webster County because of I-44, because of it being not having planning and zoning.
Yep.
So there's hurdles and obstacles that they wouldn't have to cross if we did have planning and zoning. But also, it wouldn't be one of those 350 megawatt data centers. Because it would be something smaller that is more manageable, that might not be as hard on the environment or whatever.
Right.
And I'm not advocating for or against. I'm just trying to learn myself about it.
It would be very surprising to me if a data center opened in Webster County, because you are served out in the country by Webster Electric. It's kind of complicated, but Webster Electric is under a generation and transmission organization that receives its power from an organization called Associated Electric, which is based in Springfield. They do not have the ability to build that much power to power a data center.
Right.
Now, Ameren, based out of St. Louis, and Evergy, who are private companies that have access to Wall Street capital, who are able to get that access to capital, and then be able to get compensated from ratepayers later, because you have to go ask for rate increases from the Public Service Commission, which, by the way, the co-ops cannot do. They do not get access to Wall Street money. It would be very hard for them to put that kind of investment onto their grid.
Right. And I think in layman's terms, people should realize the PSC, the Public Service Commission, is put in place because for companies that don't have an elected board, like co-ops have elected boards. So if we don't like what the co-op's doing, we can vote out the board and vote in new leadership.
That's right.
But Ameren, you can't do that. So the PSC's a privately owned company. It has to have that oversight.
Yeah. And I don't mean to get into the weeds on this, but but I think, I think, again, we have to stop, take a breath, look at this and say, okay, well, we don't really know what's happening.
Right.
Let's not panic.
Right.
And I would say, from my little vantage point of this, it seems all the data centers that are being looked at in Missouri, and there are a lot of data centers that are being considered, but most of them are in the Ameren service territory, the Evergy service territory, because those are big companies that produce a lot of power. And they have the ability to raise money to build more power.
Right.
And I just don't, it would be surprising to me if you started seeing data centers outside of those service territories, unless they're going to build their own power and be off the grid, which is very hard to do.
Yeah, it would be very difficult. Yeah. Okay, I think we beat that horse.
Okay.
But no, it's good. It's good because you have an insight that others don't have. And we're to 129. I wanted to save the second half for your book. But, so I got a minute. So tell us about the solar industry and what's the future in the solar industry. Because that's, again, it's an alternative out there for energy that we have to look at. We're already looking at. It's already being utilized. Where's that headed?
There's a lot of solar out there. Missouri is about ready to enter the top 20 states in the country for solar production.
Wow.
We're already in the top 20 for wind. Our utilities still use a lot of coal. They still use a lot of natural gas, and there's a lot of pros and cons to that. Mm-hmm. You would say, those are reliable, and those are base load, and all those other things. And I would argue that the more we see battery storage, and again, these are also controversial concepts, solar farms and battery storage facilities. I mean, there was a big fight over a battery storage facility in Greene County.
That's right. Yeah.
Just a couple months ago. There's a lot of concerns. There's a lot of fear.
Wind has concerns with.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, so there's a lot of people who are like, well, this was not here before. What's going to happen when it is here now? Is it going to change where I live? Mm-hmm. And I think one of the reasons people live in the country, certainly one of the reasons why I like the country, is because sometimes the landscape doesn't change all that much.
That's right.
But I think with the advent of battery energy storage, you're going to be able to see solar be used more than just when it's sunny outside. Mm-hmm. Or wind, when it's windy outside. And you can do this with gas, you can do this with coal. The idea that we used to have to produce power and basically use it as soon as those electrons were fired up and went down the wires and eventually landed somewhere. I mean, I'm not a physicist. I'm sure I explained that wrong. Jared Durden, I went to school with him. He is a physicist. He can do that. He teaches at OTC. Yeah. But, I mean, now we have the ability to not have to do that. And I think that's going to revolutionize how our grid works. I think it's going to revolutionize how our power is delivered, and I think that's very exciting. But it is also very controversial.
Yeah.
There are a lot of anti-solar measures that have been introduced at the legislature this year. I've spent a lot of my time talking to lawmakers about that, talking to, people who are stakeholders who are interested in that. And it's important, but I do think it is moving in a good direction.
Yeah. It seems like when I was up there, and I'm sure it's all changed and there's a lot more involved, but most of the anti-solar stuff was just because it had to do with the grid. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of rooftop solar stuff back then.
Yeah.
And that's
and people don't want to pay, that if they're using more power, producing more power with their solar panels that they've spent money on, then they feel like they shouldn't have to pay an upcharge to the power company to have that there for backup, or they should be able to get reimbursed for some of that power they may be producing that's going back into the grid. And those were the kind of questions back then that were always topics, And
I would still say that the co-ops are still pushing. It's they don't like rooftop solar. Utilities generally don't like rooftop solar. I think rooftop solar is great. Yeah. Personally speaking, I have rooftop solar on my house.
Yeah, I'd like to have it on this building. If you saw my electric bill,
I'll connect you with somebody. Okay. But I mean, but now, we do have. Now, I think the controversy is we are seeing so many more large-scale, hundreds of megawatts of solar, especially in northern Missouri, mid-Missouri, and there's a lot of apprehension and controversy about those, and so you've seen a lot of legislation filed to address it.
Yeah.
We've been trying to work with the sponsors who might have harsher standards than maybe say the industry would like. So we're trying to work with them, negotiate with them. They don't love solar. They don't love me. But at least I think that the one thing I'm kind of heartened by is that these lawmakers are sitting down with groups like ours, with solar companies, with the utilities. Because, by the way, Ameren is probably building or buying more solar than almost anybody else in the state. They're going to put a 250 megawatt solar array by their nuclear power plant up in Callaway County. It is coming.
Yeah.
It is probably already here. And I think, ultimately we just have to do it smart. We have to be smart about it. And I think that's the same thing I would say about any data center. Again, I don't think a data center is going to be moving to Webster County. I think that would, but if anything's going to get developed, you got to be smart about it.
Yeah, and if it does, it would probably be much smaller than some of these units that people are talking about, worrying about that's went into the larger cities.
It's not going to be Microsoft. Right. It's not going to be Google. Right. Those things are energy hogs. Right. They're water hogs. I get the concern because, you're talking about using a lot of energy. You're talking about using a lot of water. Mm-hmm. But I think, again, there are smart ways of doing that. And and we're going to have to start regulating those in a smart way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So we're 1:34. If we took station breaks, now's when we take our station break. And we'll come back and talk about the book. But since we don't, we'll talk about the book.
Good segue.
Yeah, that's right. So, James, let's talk about The Wicked Among Us, Murder, Blackmail, and Book.
You mean this book?
Yes, book collecting in the Ozarks.
Yes.
The first question I'm going to ask you, because you said that you worked with the gentleman who's the main topic in this book, the victim. What inspired you to write a book?
I thought you were going to ask me if I did it. No.
I know you didn't. I know you didn't.
Okay, so what inspired me to write this book is I worked for this guy. And then this horrific murder happened. But, even before that happened, because, I know true crime is really hot. True crime is really interesting to people. But even before that, just knowing him, he is an interesting guy. He was a world-renowned book collector. He had this huge estate up by McDaniel Lake north of Springfield. He had a 3-story library built onto his house. Dead authors at the top, living authors at the bottom.
Really?
Had a pack of hybrid wolves that lived on his estate.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to let that sink in for a second. This pack of them. I know. Quirky guy. Quirky is what you call him. Or eccentric.
Did he have a family, married?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay.
And that plays pretty prominently into the book. He was married for 38 years to a woman named Alberta Comstock. She had 4 children to a previous marriage. He adopted them. They had a child together named Stephen. He raised them. There was some dysfunction in the family. Him and Alberta, after 38 years of marriage, divorced. she found out he was gay, or maybe he found out he was gay. I don't know how that worked.
Right.
But either way, it was an impediment to the marriage.
Sure.
And she wanted a divorce, and he got to stay in the house. And I mean, if you know any divorce lawyers, people can fight over houses.
Right.
This was a particularly, they fought over this house for years. She was convinced he was trying to drag his feet and trying to sell it because he wanted to continue living there. She had moved to this little house in Fairfield, Oklahoma, because she was kind of a bingo player. That was kind of her thing. And so she was near the casinos and all that. Yeah. So she was really mad about that, really upset about that. She would tell anybody that, he's trying to ruin my life. He has ruined my life. I hate this guy. And then the day that the real estate listing expires on the house, he is shot dead in his kitchen with a copy of his first edition version of The Lord of the Flies, which was probably his most valuable book, sitting on the kitchen table, which I believe he was using to bargain for his life with, because he was probably like, take this book, sell it, make some money, don't kill me.
Really?
I really believe that. There's no other reason that book should have been out. So, there's an investigation. Greene County Sheriff's Department looks into it. I am somewhat critical of their investigation in it, but then I also am mindful of the fact they did not have a whole lot of evidence to work with. I think a lot of people think, oh yeah, it was a murder. There must be microbes and follicles and all this other stuff. But when someone is shot, is shot, especially from a distance, there is often not a lot of DNA evidence. The only DNA evidence found at the house was of a son and it was outside, and there's some doubt about when that actually was left. There were cigarette butts they found. There was some question as to when those had been put out, when they were there. So there was no other DNA evidence. The ex-wife's briefcase was there. So a gas station attendant says that they saw her truck at the Monette Walmart, and the gas station, they call them Murphy's Oil. She says she saw the truck there at about 7:20 or so that night, and that would have been about how far it would have taken her to have gotten to the house and shot him. She had bought a gun that night.
Really?
But not the gun that was used to kill him. But she did carry around a gun that had been given to her by the old Judge Burrell. I don't know if you know old Judge Burrell. He was the probate judge in Greene County. His son is just now retired from the Court of Appeals Southern District. He was also
was Judge Burrell the one in a wheelchair? No,
maybe. All I know is he gave her this gun.
Okay.
And he was friends with the Comstocks.
Okay.
He given her this gun. It was like a Colt Cobra, and that they believe that was the gun that was used to kill him. But they never found the weapon. Weapon has never been retrieved.
Really?
Yeah. So it kind of comes to a dead end, and so the daughter of Alberta hires Hosmer King and Royce, my old law firm, to file a wrongful death civil lawsuit against her mom, against Roland's ex-wife. And the bulk of the end of the book is about that trial and about ultimately what the jury does.
So, dun, dun, dun. So I have to process these kinds of stories. I have to have a timeline. So when did he and her divorce or separate?
Late 2004, probably November, December 2004.
Okay, and you worked with him about that same time?
I worked from him 2006, 2007.
2006 and 7. So he was separated when you worked with him?
And yeah, they were already at each other's throats.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when was he killed?
July 2nd, 2007.
2007. So it's just about a
3
year period.
About 3 years.
The world fell apart.
All Hades broke loose, right, as they would say.
But you were there that whole time, just about.
I was.
Were you still with his firm when he was killed?
No, I just left because there was no money. He was never in the office. I was trying to learn how to be a lawyer because you don't really learn how to be a lawyer in law school. You learn how to think like a lawyer, but you don't learn anything about the process. And so, you tend to want to find a mentor.
Yeah.
I wanted a mentor out of this guy. And I thought he was just kind of interesting because he was just different.
Sounds like unique, yeah.
You don't meet a lot of lawyers like Roland Comstock every day.
Not with a pack of wolves in his backyard and a three-story library.
Right.
With the dead volumes on top and the living
Yeah, because the first question he asked me when he called me, he's like, I see he had this, he smoked and drank.
Yeah.
I see you went to Lawrence for law school. Who's the most famous writer to live in Lawrence? And I had to sit there and think about it because I had to think. I said, well, sir, I said, I don't know if he would count, but Langston Hughes is a poet. He went to school there. But William Burroughs, who's a St. Louis native who wrote a lot of weird books about drugs and everything, he moved there. And I'm going to say William Burroughs. And I just heard him take a drag off his cigarette. He's like, yeah, that's very good. Good answer. And that was my first conversation with him. I'm like, who is this guy?
Wow.
Yeah, but he was big into beat writers like Kerouac, Ginsberg, Burroughs. Yeah. That was his thing. He had like this. He actually had signatures from Jack Kerouac.
Really?
Well, thinking about Route 66 now and thinking about the traveling along that highway. He was really into all of that stuff.
What about the gay writers like Hunter Thompson and those kind of people?
Oh,
you know what I
mean? He actually had a book called Death in Venice, which was about a pedophile.
Yeah.
That was actually like his favorite book.
Yeah.
But
right.
But but Burroughs was very. I don't know if he was flamboyantly gay, but he was a gay writer. Yeah, and I think and Kerouac and Ginsberg were too.
Sure. Mm-hmm. So you were there. Was it a very large firm or just kind of you and him mainly?
Me, him, paralegal, and a secretary.
So you. I mean, not that you were around him a lot, but I mean, you probably got to know him fairly well, or at least how he acted and what he was.
Relatively well. Yeah. And then what was really the saving grace of the book was that his daughter, the paralegal Becky Frakes, who had really worked with him since she'd gotten out of school, she was his executor and gave me all of this access to his notes, his books,
really? Wow.
His he was a state rep. In the 60s. And so there's kind of this funny chapter in there about like his failed effort to be a politician, which did not go very well. And so I got to like have all this insight that I would not have gotten had I not known Becky or Faith. That's the daughter's name. Right. If I hadn't got to know any of them and gotten access to this, it would not be much of a book.
Right. That's really intriguing. I mean, that's really a very unique story, and you've got an opportunity here that would not come along very often for people. I would think
it is. I mean, well, one of the things that like people ask about how hard it is to get a book published is very hard. You have to have a really good story to even get a chance at getting attention. And I knew this story was so good that it was going to be hard for me to screw up.
Yeah.
There have been some people who take some issue with how I've presented the facts in the book because it goes kind of back and forth a little bit. And I think there's been people who have criticized that as being a little confusing. I can get into that. That's a whole other podcast. But I would not have gotten a chance to be a writer had I not been able to tell this particular story.
Right.
Because this particular story gets people's attention.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm ready to read the book right now. Oh. I mean, I haven't read it and I don't have it, but I'm going to get a signed copy from you hopefully.
Yes.
But it really sounds interesting, and it looks to me like it has movie potential.
My agent is working on that. I don't know how hard he is working on that. I'm just kidding, Tom. If you're listening to this, I know you're working very hard on it. We have been talking to some people.
Yeah, I mean, really, it sounds very intriguing, and there's just looks like a lot of little backstories there too.
Well, one thing that my agent and I talked about was it would be great to write a movie about one particular case. I get into some of Roland's cases he worked on, and this you'll like. If we got a minute, I'll tell this story.
We've got 15 minutes.
Yeah, okay. So
right out at 2. But
I gotta go sign my books.
We're gonna talk about that. Make sure you go get one of his books at the library. You'll be there for 2 hours. Go ahead.
Okay, so back in the early '80s, there was this. Okay, the people who used to run the vending, the kind of the concession stand at Doling Park there, North Springfield. Right. They passed away. They had a trust. They didn't have any kids, but they did have a French bulldog named Butch. And they left everything to Butch. They left the house. They left the van. He was to enjoy.
Oh, my goodness.
He got to live in the house. A neighbor was the trustee. She was going to get paid to take care of Butch.
Oh, my goodness.
He was going to get to live in the house. He was going to get to ride around in the van. He was going to get to live his best doggy life. these nieces and nephews of the deceased were the contingent beneficiaries. Contingent beneficiaries means if something happens to your first beneficiaries, they get everything. They were like, look, we'll take care of this dog. We'll make sure this dog is okay. But the fact that you let this house and this car depreciate in value because you're letting this dog use it is absurd, is the phrase the lawsuit used.
Right.
So they filed a lawsuit saying they did not want Butch to have the house or the car. So Judge Burrell, the Judge Burrell we were just talking about, was, the trustee was represented, the family members were represented, but the only person that didn't have a lawyer, well, the only party, I should say, that didn't have a lawyer was the dog. So the judge appoints Roland to be the dog's lawyer. And so Roland's the ad litem for this dog, if you all know anything about court terminology. He would bring the dog to court. He'd do press conferences with the dog, and eventually hired about 2 or 3 expert witnesses to say, if this dog were not to enjoy the trappings of his former life, it would shorten his lifespan. And Roland won. And this dog got to go get his KFC chicken on Kearney Street, got to live in his little crib, and he died in 1994. Like, he lived 10 more years into this.
Wow.
And the punchline in the book is that the trust specifically said that you need to do an autopsy of the dog, and so they did an autopsy of the dog to make sure there was no foul play, because they were worried that maybe the nieces and nephews would kill this dog. But don't worry, no one murdered the dog. So, and I've actually thought, like, my agent and I were talking about that could be
and you touch upon that in the book.
Oh yeah. There's like 3 or 4 pages of that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's objectively, like, that's a funny story.
It is a funny story.
And like, again, I just had, what I had was the transcripts from the trial. I had all of these newspaper articles because the news leader just could not get enough of this. When this book was profiled on KY3, they actually went in their archives and found footage of Butch and Roland with Butch, and oh my God, that was actually really great. That was on Ozark's Life, and Chad Pline did a really good job with that. Of just finding old footage of Roland and also about his book collection and everything else too. So it is, like, I was thinking, like, it'd be funny, like, the trustees, like, trying to protect this dog from the evil relatives, and this crusading lawyer comes in, and that could be a movie, probably.
Absolutely.
Kathy Bates could play the trustee. I don't know. John Lithgow looks a whole lot like Roland.
Really?
I mean, oh yeah. If you've ever seen Killers of the Flower Moon, Lithgow plays a lawyer in that. And he's a dead ringer for him. Amazing stuff.
So when this murder occurred, in 20 years ago now, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't, why do we not recall that murder like we did others from the Springfield area, like the one at Fremont Hills or
Feeney or Revell?
Yeah, that weren't, because they were all. I just don't really recall this one. Did it not make the news quite so much, or
it made the news? I have a theory about that, and it's a little controversial, but I believe it's because he was kind of considered a little as an unsavory victim because of his homosexuality.
He was odd.
He was an odd guy. He was eccentric. He did not fit your model of, like, what a lawyer should be.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, one of the things they say is I think Springfield kind of wanted to forget this murder a little bit.
I see.
And I think there were people. I mean, and I don't want to disparage the sheriff's department, as you've already touched on. My grandfather was a sheriff.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for law enforcement, but there were some people who believe, because I've quoted them, that they got what he deserved because they thought he was a pedophile based on what they saw on his computer. But it was just really just ultimately, it's like stuff that adults watch online, right?
I see.
You get it.
Yeah.
But I think I think he was kind of an inconvenient victim.
Yeah.
I think, with the Revell situation, that was a wife that was a kind of a well-regarded woman. I mean, oh my gosh, the Feeney case, that's horrible because he had little kids involved with that. Plus,
then there were the teachers, the Hillcrest teachers or whatever on north side of Springfield. Remember they were both murdered and thought it was for money or something.
Oh, that's right. And then and
we may be going back a little further, but anyway, and that was one of the things I think that motivated the family to work with me on it, was because I think there was a sense it had been forgotten. Yeah. Their children have all been cooperative. or his?
Oh
children?
no!
Oh, they haven't been.
There's a couple that are not.
What about the one? What about his biological child?
Oh, he was great.
He was great.
He was. Oh, well, yeah. He was. Yeah, I've sat down and talked to him a couple of times about in preparation for the book. You know, he went to court ordered rehab the day before this murder, and one of his observations was, whoever did this, because I think the sheriff's department thought it was some guy he met online who did this.
I see.
But he said whoever did this knew I was not going to be around because he lived around the corner on these cottages by McDaniel Lake that Roland owned. And he was always going up there to check on his dad, to feed the wolves, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So somebody who did this knew that Stephen was not going to be around.
Right. Did the wolves play a part in like allowing this person on the property?
Well, that is my other theory, Lyndall, is that the only people these dogs trusted, the only people, were Roland and Alberta.
Yeah.
I would go over to this house, and I'd have to put my fingers in my pockets because there would be one of them staring at you, and you'd be like watching it, and the other one would be like biting at your feet. I mean, like they were very much like they were working together, right? Because that's what pack animals do. Yeah. Everybody was scared of these animals. They're wolves, right? Man. But the only two people that I really, because I really do think that someone who was robbing him or somebody who's just someone he met online, the wolves would have attacked. Mm-hmm. But there was no evidence of that whatsoever. Right. And I do have to believe that it was somebody that knew that those wolves knew very well.
Right.
Which has to be the ex-wife.
Right.
Who's now deceased.
I was getting ready to say, is she still alive? Yeah.
Yeah, no lawsuit. I don't have to worry about a lawsuit from her.
Yeah.
But there's a couple others. There's a couple other people that I think might have been involved. It's certainly suggested in the book that she had help getting out of Springfield because her car broke down, which is a whole thing we get into, which I don't really think was followed up very closely. But I think there were people that might have helped her, and they're still out and about.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a little nervous about some of that.
Interesting.
Don't sit too close.
Yeah. Well, James, this is really an unbelievable story.
My gosh,
I had no idea. I mean, I've seen you on Facebook and talking about it, but just hadn't sit down and taken the time.
This book is bananas, man. I'm telling you, this is a crazy story. It is, and I think it's one that really, I think has resonated with people because it does kind of get into cultural issues, it gets into social issues. It certainly is. I mean, because he is certainly an interesting guy.
Yeah.
I think the problem with a lot of true crime narratives are the victim is often forgotten even in the story.
Right.
They focus on the murderer, which makes sense because the murderer is like alive and can talk. But like I think again, the one good thing I had with this was I had all this wonderful information where I could literally get his dialogue that he was writing, like he was writing to his lawyer about fights with his ex-wife, and I was able to just incorporate all of that and tried to bring him to life as best I could.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the book's available on all the usual book sites, or?
Oh yes, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I mean, I think there's like an independent bookstore. I mean, I think if you're going to Springfield, it's at Barnes and Noble there. It's at it's at ABC Books on North Glenstone. It's at Storytime Books on East Walnut, kind of by National. It's in Bookmarks, which is in downtown Springfield. I've done readings at all of those places.
Yeah.
It's available, in Springfield. It's available in some places around Kansas City, but
sure.
But I've just been really happy that people have liked it. That people have enjoyed reading it.
Has it sold fairly well?
My publisher says it's been steady.
Good.
I mean, I'm not quitting any of my 10 jobs to be a writer. I would love to do that.
You're not going to be at the next year's Vendor Palooza down here, selling books.
Now that I know, I might.
If I knew Beaver and Clint Howard.
If I knew that I could talk to Clint Howard, I might.
He's down there, so
wow, that is wild.
It's kind of cool, isn't it?
Clint Howard's been in some great movies. I mean,
Clint Howard was Gentle Ben. He was the little Ronnie Howard's brother on Andy Griffith, and the right stuff. He was in the control room.
That was Apollo 13.
Or Apollo 13.
Yeah,
okay. That's right.
Yeah, he was in Austin Powers.
He was in.
He was in Austin Powers. Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he was like this guy that was like looking at the radar. They had all the body jokes about the radar, right? Yeah, that was Clint Howard. Like, I'll be darned. Like, that's really cool.
You better you got to go to your.
I gotta go meet my fans. Yeah. Like, I can't be fanboying about Clint Howard. I want to, because like I would be like, you're royalty. Like, he's Hollywood royalty.
That's right.
Like, Rance Howard was in Chinatown. Like,
his dad.
Yeah, their dad, and I mean, his brother, of course, is amazing.
Well, Stephanie Kramer from Hunter. Do you remember the TV show Hunter?
Fred Dryer.
Fred Dryer was the
was that
star.
A detective?
Yeah, he was a star, a detective, but Stephanie was a beautiful young lady, and she's down there, or she was yesterday, and I mean it's kind of amazing.
That is crazy. That is really crazy.
What's her name? It worked with Chuck Norris on his TV show.
Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah, what was the lady, the girl? She was also in Dallas.
Oh,
is that Sherry?
Wasn't Patrick Duffy here?
Yeah, he was here yesterday.
I got his Bobby
Ewing.
I
got his autograph last year, but his wife Linda Pearl was supposed to be with him, and I didn't ever see her. But
wow,
Linda, she was on Matlock and and movies. And
it is really just quite an amazing little scene we've got here.
It really is. And we 21 years now, and I'll have to admit, the first few years I'm like, what? This is much to do about nothing, right? But now that's the attraction.
It's a big deal.
The phenomena of it is that you've got this eclectic. Even Nichols will say it's like taking history and throwing it in a blender and just watching it all come out. And it's like, that's about right, That's what makes it unique.
It's a trip, man. It's a trip.
I remember Jay Nixon's wife, Mrs. Nixon,
Georgia,
very nice lady, Elkland roots.
She is an Elkland, yeah.
And she told me one day in the Capitol, I was something, and they were there, and she said, Webster County, yeah, you know what I really like about Webster County? I really like that Cherry Blossom Festival. Because she had came down and planted a tree, and her roots, were Webster County. So.
Yeah. Like, her dad was like the superintendent of the Elkland school,
Wheeler.
I think.
His name was Wheeler.
That's right.
Superintendent of the school over there. But there's a lot of connections. We're almost like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
You and I?
There are a lot. Yeah. Well, just Webster County.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of connections in Webster County to this state. And beyond, that people, and I'm sure every town would claim that, but there really is. I mean, if you really look at
Roy Blunt,
politicians and famous people, there are a lot of connections that.
But didn't Sam Walton live here?
Well,
briefly, like in Diggins?
And his grandfather is buried in Diggins.
Yeah.
His dad lived in Diggins as a boy, and then Sam would come back and stay at the grandparents in the summertime as a boy.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
But his dad left over there when he went off, became an adult.
Yeah,
and met Sam's mother. But and Sam came back here for their centennial or sesquicentennial at Diggins back. It was right before I was the manager here, or about the time I became manager in the 90s, about the time you graduated.
Yeah.
He came back over there and gave him some money and dedicated a plaque or something,
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. Well, listen, it's 1:59. I know you have to get across the street to sign your book, but this has been a real treat. And,
this has been
hopefully
great.
We'll come back. And Reunion Fest, it's your 30th year.
It is I need to come back for that.
We'll expect to see some of you and your colleagues here on July the 3rd, the night before the parade.
I will. Well, it might be hard because my wife's company sponsors like the Columbia fireworks, and so she's always around for that. I'll try to make it.
Yeah,
I'll try
if you can put together some of your colleagues there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And have a good time. So thank you so much.
I know.
Wish you the best. And
thank you.
You're going to sign a book for me. And,
it's already signed.
Awesome. And
I didn't know I was going to give that to you, but you can have it.
Thank you. And then
I would have personalized it.
I will buy your audiobook because I like to listen when I'm driving too.
Oh,
but I got to have the book for.
It's on Audible.
Yeah.
It's on Audible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that one signed. I was like, I brought it up. I would have personalized it for you, but as Roland would say, if you personalize it, it's not worth as much.
I was getting ready to say that probably does devalue it, especially when you become a major movie writer.
And say, dear eBay.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to let him go. Thank you all. We'll see you again soon. This has been a treat.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yeah. Let me get this turned off before I
start talking about anybody.
Incriminate yourself.